All right, welcome back to another exciting episode of What If, the series where we talk about if Edison cards that are on the ban list actually were not. So for this one, we are going to be doing Sinister Serpent, which is one of the most iconic cards in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. This card dominated during the GOAT format era of 2005, and it actually gets banned in October of 2005, and it stays there for a full decade. So it doesn't get unbanned until 2015. And unfortunately, Konami did decide to errata the card before they unbanned it, which Stango and I both hate that. I'm not a fan of the whole errata the card and then bring it off the ban list. I think they ruined Chaos Emperor Dragon, they ruined Ring of Destruction, and they also ruined Sinister Serpent. So for people who don't know, Sinister's original effect is during your standby phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can return it to your hand. One sentence, very straightforward. If it's in your graveyard during your standby phase, you can just add it to your hand. That is what it does. Very, very powerful effect. I think one-liners like that in Yu-Gi-Oh historically have just been very powerful, like Pot of Greed, draw 2 cards, Dark Hole, destroy all monsters on the field, Graceful Charity, draw 3, discard 2. One-liners tend to be very, very powerful. Sinister is a one-liner that is very, very powerful. They changed its effect. I'm going to read off the errata just because, but it says during your standby phase, this card is in your graveyard. You can add it to your hand. Also, banish 1 Sinister Serpent from your graveyard during your opponent's next end phase. You can only use this effect of Sinister Serpent once per turn. So they completely ruined the card. We're not talking about that version. When we talk about What If, we're talking about the original Sinister Serpent, and we're going to be talking about the original of all the cards in this series, not the erratas. I'm not doing the errata. We didn't do the errata of Crush card. We're not doing the errata of Chaos Emperor Dragon when we get to it in the final episode. We're always going to be talking about the way it was printed originally. So, Stango, how do you think this card would impact Edison format? What do you think is going to mainly change or see play more if this card was in Edison?
Yeah, so with Sinister Serpent, obviously the main advantage and strength is that it is a recurring resource that you just get another card, another monster in your hand. There's plenty of decks that can take a lot of advantage of that. The most obvious and blatantly best one, in my opinion, would be Frogs.
Yeah.
Having another water access to do special summons with Swap Frog, 1-for-1 pitches.
Oh God,
Sinister Serpent. Even Future Fusion send Ocean, Sinister Serpent.
That's actually
send those
really
two
good.
Pieces,
yeah,
that's really good. You send those 2 pieces, and then during the standby phase, you get a Sinister Serpent back to your hand. Not too bad.
Yeah, because your Treeborn Frog is locked too during the time where you have Future Fusion going. So the fact that you can actually add Sinister back to your hand, it can be your Treeborn Frog while you're waiting for Future Fusion to leave the field or to win the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And other decks as well that I think could take a pretty good advantage of it. A lot of the decks that we kind of saw that have been kind of newly coming up with like the volcanic rocket, like discard trap decks, like anything that wants to use discard traps, you know, control decks like that volcanic Black Garden deck, even Quickdraw, that guy. I don't remember him because he's never played, but Quickdraw, he honestly wouldn't really mind Sinister Serpent, because I think probably the most interesting thing about using Sinister and Quickdraw with Drill Warrior is the card that you pick up with Drill Warrior can just be totally separate and independent of the Sinister Serpent. Versus a lot of times when you are doing Drill Warrior with like Dandelion, for example, which can leave you exposed to getting like Bora Pierced, and you really can't do anything about it because the Dandy tokens are just kind of sitting there, maybe not getting used. You can go pitch the Sinister, get that back during the standby phase, and then get a different card with the Drill Warrior instead of only doing like a Dandelion loop.
Yeah,
so that's the card you can end up. That's the card you could be pitching instead of just looping the same card, because you're like, oh, I'm getting Drill Warrior back, but I don't have any good monsters to discard with my Drill Warrior, so I have to kind of get this Dandy and not get a better card, maybe like a Caius, which could help out that turn.
Yeah, I actually think you bring up a good point, which I was not thinking about at all, because, you know, I'm never thinking about Quickdraw, so I'm so glad to have my co-host here, Stango. I was not even remotely thinking about Quickdraw. I'm so frog-pilled that my brain was only thinking about all the ignorant shit that frogs could do. But Quickdraw does benefit a lot on the standby phase. So basically, every turn that Drill Warrior comes back, it would be draw a card for turn, bring back Sinister, bring back a card from the grave. That is actually ridiculous. Like, every turn for that to be happening, that would actually make me think that Drill Warrior doesn't suck. because it is genuinely an engine. Right now, when people summon Drill Warrior, my main gripe with it is that it's such a huge investment and it's so easy to out it. We actually saw this on stream recently where a guy basically used all their cards to summon Drill Warrior, and then they did the effect, they banished it, and on the following turn, AJT just went summon False Dyna attack. And I was just like, bro, like, it's just so sad.
Also, because I was just kind of running through the lines in my head, Sinister Serpent, very interesting typage going on with it. Reptile.
Yeah. What is that?
I don't really think Snake Rain or anything like that will see play because you can Foolish Burial it. But I think another card that we would just generally see a lot more in Edison format for these kind of control resource recursion decks that would really take a lot of advantage off of Sinister Serpent. I think Foolish Burial, I think even in Bayou Turbo nowadays is really kind of cut for the most part.
Yeah, they don't
but
really
Foolish
play that.
Burial would see a lot more play just for the pure benefit of Foolish is technically like kind of card even. Is that how that math works?
Yeah, it would. Yeah. At first, it would be so you take up minus the turn you Foolish Sinister, right? But then on the very next turn, you get it back. It's kind of the reason why I don't mind going like Stratos summon, Search Ocean, special summon Swap Frog, send Treeborn. Like, sure, I'm going minus on the whole discard the ocean immediately. Like Stratos goes plus, and then you special swap, you go minus. But then on the following turn, when you draw, right, you're gonna draw a card and then also bring back Treeborn Frog. So the minus only, it's a temporary minus when you Foolish Burial. Sinister or Treeborn. I do like the idea of Foolish Burial being played more because it also would make Hero Frogs more consistent. Selfishly, I love that deck, and you would be able to now, sometimes you don't see a hero, right? That's doing the thing. Every Hero Frog player has experienced the thing where you play a lot of heroes, you still sometimes go games where you just can't find one, you have Miracle Fusions. Foolish Burial would just add another layer of heroes to it, but also when you have a hero and you don't need one, you could just Foolish or Sinister, and now for the rest of the game, you have that going. And in certain hands, I'm sure that there will be reasons that you would Foolish Burial Treeborn Frog as well, so that option would just be open for any of the annoying standby phase guys. Just imagine every standby phase, bring back Treeborn, add back Sinister. Like, the card advantage would be so out of control. It's already ridiculous.
Yeah, it would be pretty crazy. And I think another thing as well that kind of just really comes down to it is when you have a card like Sinister Serpent in your deck, it really mitigates, I think, how damaging cards like DDV can be.
Yeah.
Because DDV is very just equivalent much to Sinister Serpent. If you don't have Treeborn access, if they don't play Caius and shit like that, going set Sinister Serpent every turn to just kind of coast by the DDV turns, maybe you just keep drawing frogs.
Yeah.
You can't get Treeborn access, but they hit that Sinister Serpent, standby phase, add it back, set a card, maybe put a back row behind it to set up your Monarch play for next turn. Serpent is really good for not just what you can use it as far as a card effect with like a discard trap or fueling an engine. It's just a good blocker.
I was about to say,
because it just comes back.
Yeah, it could be in those situations where the games get kind of simplified. I've annoyed my opponents with just Treeborn Frog coming back every turn. They'll have like a Machina Fortress and I have a Treeborn Frog, and we're just in that recovery phase. We're both kind of low on resources, and so you cannot deal damage to me. I just have this Treeborn coming back every turn. Now it could be Treeborn plus add back Sinister, set Sinister. So I just have two guys. Also, Fossil Dyna does not stop Sinister Serpent. So
no,
even if you
that's
have
actually a real big deal,
right? Even if you have a Vanity's Fiend against me or a Fossil Dyna, if I keep setting Sinister, I'm not losing card advantage. You know how Frog decks get into that embarrassing moment where there's a Fossil Dyna or a Vanity's Fiend, they start setting Swap Frog, they start setting Ocean, they start setting Infernal Prodigy, they start setting everything like Substitutes just because they need to live to see like the Deep Prison of Regeki break the Mirror Force or whatever. You wouldn't have to do that. You would literally just keep recurring Sinister Serpent every turn and just keep setting it against the Fossil Dyna, the Vanity's Fiend, the Christia, and you're not losing any card advantage. So when you finally do out the floodgate, the floods really do come through. Like, I outed it, and now I have a full, you know what I mean? Like, I have a full hand now, so I've been holding all these cards back. It's actually so good. It changes the game in a lot of cool ways. Like you said, chump blocking is huge. I think that just having Water Art be easier to activate, right? Like, Water Art is played now way more than it's ever been. This 2025 is like the year of Water Art. So we've been getting DDV.
Oh yeah, water Art with Serpent is really nasty because generally a lot of times when you do run into Water Art, you can run into a weird situation where you're like, Swap Frog. Do I really want to Water Art away my Swap Frog? It's my only one that I have right now. And like, if they don't do any plays, like maybe I got Monarchs, I don't really have anything to summon after this. So I'm kind of banking that whatever I Water Art, I can take away their tempo so they have no plays, and I have to draw into something that applies pressure after that water
Yeah.
art. Versus Serpent, you're like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. Get rid of the Serpent. It's coming back. I do not care whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that just is, and it's like frog, but like, guys, frogs are water. They're gonna abuse the card.
Yeah.
It's the card made for them. But like, a really interesting thing with Sinister Serpent is things like DD Crow and Soul Release and stuff like that. Like, all those kind of cards, if they don't kind of hit the Sinister Serpent in that way, when people are like, oh yes, I got all their Treeborns aren't live anymore. Sinister Serpent, while it being worse than just Treeborn Tributed Monarch, Swap Frog, Tribute Sinister Serpent, like, it all kind of pays out in the end, where if you can get the Monarch on the field, you take away the pressure, you're still getting the Serpent back for the blocker, for the discard trap. It's also another card that's like a bit of a lightning rod, where you're like,
yes,
maybe you're in a tough decision where it's like, oh, he's got Heroes, Waters, and Treeborn access, and also Sinister Serpent. Like, I can only banish 5 with Soul Release, or like, this DD Crow can only hit one thing. What do I really want to hit?
I think this brings up a good point, and I'm sad to say this because you guys know how much I hate these cards like Transmigration Prophecy and Soul Release, but they would be a lot better if Sinister Serpent was in the format. I have to say, I have to be honest, they would be a lot. Right now, I think those cards are borderline unplayable. I really hate Soul Release and Transmigration Prophecy. I think they are just strictly worse than DD Crow and just other cards in general that you could be siding. But if Sinister Serpent was in the format, because it would be so awkward for your opponent to have Hero, Water, Treeborn, Sinister in the grave, which would happen pretty often, honestly. I think all Hero Frog decks would be forced to play Future Fusion. There would be none of this, hey, Frazier, what do you think about Future Fusion still? Like, I still play Future Fusion, by the way, but I think everybody would have to play Future Fusion if Sinister Serpent was in the format, and it would be that much harder for your opponent to use DD Crow against your Hero Frog deck, which I already think DD Crow doesn't really work that well against Hero Frogs. It would make it that much harder, and then you need cards like Soul Release and Transmigration Prophecy and even Fiend Comedian or whatever to just, I want it all gone.
Either way, on the topic of Vanity's Fiend and, you know, Fossilina, all that good stuff, I think a card that really doesn't see any play in Edison format because it's really just not good in the grand scheme of things. For the situations that it's hyper specifically good, it's still kind of mid. Abyss Soldier is just insane.
Yeah,
Abyss
I forgot
Soldier
about that.
is just cracked because Abyss Soldier can return any card on the field.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really good cards in Edison format to return on the field, on your opponent's side and on your side. I think the fact that Abyss Soldier could just be like a really safe Raigeki if you have a 0 on your field is like kind of crazy, where you could just go Abyss Soldier, Prio, Raigeki, bounce out my 0, then play Miracle Fusion afterwards. That's kind of crazy.
He's also 1800, so he beats over Dinah, beats over Gruffer, beats over Armageddon Knight, you know, trades with Shura and Stratos, trades with Gearframe. But infinite fodder with Sinister Serpent would make him a lot more playable. I completely forgot that he's a card because pretty much no one plays Abyss Soldier, and I know there's been rumblings and talks about it recently, but I have yet to see a deck list actually utilize Abyss Soldier to success. And I would be, Sinister Serpent and Abyss Soldier is just an infinite little, like, every turn, because he's once per turn, you can discard one water monster.
Bro, imagine a dupe block behind an Abyss Soldier that can bounce something every single fucking
it's like,
turn.
oh, you thought Flip Flop was bad.
That fully, just because Flip Flop is just a bullshit ass 500 attack monster.
Yeah.
And
it only
Abyss
does
Soldier,
monsters. It only does monsters.
Yes. Abyss Soldier's just like, oh, you flipped Maska Restrict, and I triggered Treeborn, and you flipped Maska Restrict. Like, oh, that's cute. I'm just gonna summon Abyss Soldier. No Prio? Oh, it's not Bottomless or Torrential? All right, bounce your other back row.
Yeah.
Because I don't give a fuck about that Maska Restrict.
Yeah, the mask doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
When I'm ready to tribute, I'll deal with the mask. How about that?
Yeah, a Duke Frog and an Abyss Soldier by itself will be a little lock. Like, that would be a lock in itself. Just those two monsters.
Yeah, that is so crazy to think about.
Yeah, I wonder if any other decks. So the biggest winners, obviously, frogs are like the biggest winner. All the decks that use discard traps, they're big winners as well. Like you said, Volcanic Garden. I think even some of the dragon decks use like a bunch of discard traps as well. They could also benefit from having Sinister Serpent. I wonder if like, does Lightsworn find itself playing Sinister Serpent because it mills so much, and maybe it's just like a nice card that it makes Beckoning and Monster Reincarnation easier, right?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I mean, with Beckoning and Monster Reincarnation, sometimes you can always be a little hard pressed on like having a bad discard, but at any point if you mill Sinister Serpent, any of those cards that you see further down the road, it's just a free easy discard.
Lumina. I think Lumina has a discard for it as well.
Correct.
Zombie Master technically can discard it to use to bring back a guy. But yeah, decks that mill, I think, could get away with it. Like maybe a lot of the Hamster Ryko Caius decks in general that play like Charge, 3 Rykos, 2 Hamsters, and all that, they probably can just throw Sinister in their deck. And maybe we see a rise in discard traps in general, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think it has to be decks that can or want to facilitate discard traps. Sinister Serpent definitely will see some play. I think even maybe technically to just get more water targets just in general, even though it's maybe sometimes down bad, but in zombies, you know, if they play Miracle Fusion in Diva Zombies, you know, that's kind of just game. Just having an extra thing to pitch with Brio, to pitch with Zombie Master, and it's another water target, you know, because the deck is very light on waters. That's probably the biggest weakness of Diva Zombies in general.
Yeah.
It is something to banish.
I'm also thinking in general, the cards that say discard a card, like Lightning Vortex, also just become that much better. Like, there are a lot of cards that are kind of mid. Magical Stone Excavation, Lightning Vortex is like okay. Like, it's a good card, but sometimes it's not that great because of the discard. And Sinister Serpent just mitigates the cost of all these things. Like, we don't play a Feather of the Phoenix at all, which is another card that says like discard a card and do something. Monster Incarnation is not played really widespread. Like, Monarchs technically could use Monster Incarnation, but we're not really pitching our card advantage to do that. And Sinister would just make a lot of these things better. Card destruction becomes better in general. Like, just an extra card that makes the card destruction -1 not really feel like that. Yeah, you could imagine Sinister would kind of warp things. Sangan would see more play, I imagine, as well. Like, Sangan just searching out the Sinister Serpent would be a big deal. Mother Grizzly is already played in Icarus 89. He plays his Frog Monarch deck, and he main decks currently 2 Mother Grizzlies. Yeah, you can just like, they attack and you're like, I get my Sinister, and now I'll go draw Tribute Sinister Serpent for a Monarch, and I just have that resource in the grave forever now. Like, that is just going to be a thing that you have to deal with forever.
That's very fair. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Outside of like a lot of just generic discard outlets, I don't see many other decks abusing it to the level of other frogs in general. I do think as far as frogs go, I don't see Frog OTK playing it at all. It already kind of has the resource recursion engine of just like Avarice.
Yeah.
You know, going with Fishborg Blaster and Substitute. I don't think it really needs that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because you're kind of right. It doesn't really help the game plan game one. Like, Sinister is not going to be the reason why you OTK'd somebody with Frog OTK. I think games 2 and 3, though, it is actually
Abyss
really
Soldier.
good.
That Abyss Soldier and Sinister in the side, baby.
I could see games 2 and 3. I could definitely see it being a lot better because games 2 and 3 are grindy. You're siding in the Dream Frogs and you're playing this very slow, methodical game. And that's where Sinister really does shine. Basically, Sinister got eroded for no reason because in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, it's unplayable even if he had his original effect. My problem is, to kind of wrap up this episode, my problem is they changed the effect of the card, right? To be where you basically can only use it once per turn, and then it banishes itself on your opponent's phase. So if you like use it on your, if you Raigeki Break, essentially it'll just get banished if it's your opponent's turn. So they made it virtually unplayable, and I'd argue that Sinister wasn't going to do anything in Modern anyway, because Modern duels are not that many turns. So the reason why it's good in Edison and why it would be good in Edison is because Edison, we play several turns of the game on average. Like, an average duel is around 7 turns, I would say, something like that, like some random arbitrary number. But I think that in Modern, the games are long still, but that's because each turn has so many interactions in it. Whereas Sinister benefits from every turn you add it back, right? So the more turns, the better for Sinister. That's why frogs want the long game, because some frogs, because the more turns, the better. Like, the more turns you get to bring back Treatment Frog, that's a +1 every turn. Sinister is the same thing. You want more turns, and Edison has more turns than Modern. So it would benefit. I don't know why they really eroded it and brought it off the ban list. I kind of hate that, but it was banned for a decade. It's a very strong card. I want to get into what would we rate it now. So I would say Sinister, it's very good for sure. I think it definitely would influence deck building in Edison format. Like, people would build with Sinister in mind. I don't think it's anywhere near the power level of like BLS, Card Safe Return, Crush Card Virus. Those cards are like reality warping, right? Like, they're completely reality warping. I think Sinister is impactful, but not reality warping in that way. I would give it like a solid 7 though. I think it's a solid 7. Because there's only a couple decks that I think can genuinely abuse it and use it the way it would need to be.
I think probably the biggest issue with Sinister for its overall rating is that I think in terms of its best applications, it's a bit narrow.
Yes.
However, I think generically, because it's so hard to tell with just the overall card pool of Edison, because, you know, obviously we are thinking of just the big winners kind of in the main focal point. I think with Sinister Serpent, just because of the discard recursion, how much it enables, you know, decks that maybe have never even considered playing discard traps, like, you know, fucking randomly, who knows how crazy it could get. Black Wings could be like, Raigeki Break is actually just kind of cooks. Put a level 4 in the grave or put a Sinister Serpent in the grave.
Yeah.
Like, who even knows? I think just with the generic amount of discard support in Edison format, just across the board, I would give it personally just an 8 for just the recursion patterns of every deck, and then the ceiling of it being really good in frog control decks or hero frogs more specifically as well. I think that pushes it a little bit over the top for me. Definitely not on the same power level like of a 9 or 10 of like DLS or Card of Safe Return, because every deck cannot play Sinister Serpent, but I think people could find ways to fit it and actually make it make sense.
Okay, that's fair. So I give it a 7, you give it an 8. Guys, what do you give Sinister Serpent if it was an Edison format with its original effect? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear it. And with that being said, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Take care.